Good morning, investors. Welcome to the Real Estate Investor News Channel. This is your host, Tony Moreno. And for those that this is your first time in the channel, this is our first, I guess you can call it episode, show. I don't know what to call it, but this is the first time we were to do this. Today is Monday, April 22nd. And basically, in the channel, what we'll do is every weekday, Monday through Friday, we'll release the top 3 real estate news stories, specifically more tailored towards landlords and investors themselves. But anybody can join because, again, it's related to real estate. So you're really going to get all the information. If you're a new home buyer, if you're just somebody to get started into real estate, this is where the top stories related to real estate will be heard. So welcome to the channel. Today, what I have for you guys, I have 3 stories today. First one being California banks are most exposed to commercial property. You guys know what's going on with commercial real estate. It's a lot of crazy stuff going on, but a lot of them are exposed highly when it comes to commercial office space, and that's being hurt right now. The second story I have for you guys is buyers of newly built homes can face a property tax surprise. Here's why. So we're going to talk about this tax and why is it a surprise for newly built home buyers. And the third story I have for you guys is a realtor.com report, which says that active inventory is up 30.4% year over year. So compared to last year, and new listings are up 30.1% year over year. That's good news in a way, because again, real estate is driven by supply and demand. And right now the supply is looking really bad. So if they're up year over year, that's a good thing, because that can be a help to bring prices down. So we'll talk about that in a second. So with that being said, let me talk real quick. Who am I? Again, my name is Tony Moreno. I am based off of Huntsville, Alabama. This is the first episode, and what I plan to do with this channel is to give as much information as possible to current investors, very experienced investors, and new investors, or anybody that just wants to know about real estate. I have a portfolio of about 20 properties, which I'll discuss at some other time. But you can follow me, you can subscribe. But this is who we are. So let's get right into our first story. If you guys see my screen, let me make sure I am presenting. So the first one is California banks are most exposed to commercial property. So like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these California banks, they are 5 years ago when interest rates were really low, a lot of them obviously were giving out loans expecting that the economy was going to stay the way it was. Really 3 years ago, if you consider 2021. So a lot of those loans are coming up due. If you don't know, for commercial real estate, the way it works is they are the interest renew every 5 years. So some of these banks are highly exposed to assets that are not generating what it was supposed to. In this case, we're talking office space. And the reason for that is because a lot of people are still working from home. Not everybody has returned to the office after COVID-19. So, and here it says, again, we're talking about California banks specifically. So it says California banks are once again in the spotlight due to their outsized exposure to commercial real estate investments. Nearly a third of the state banks have property debt that exceeds 300% of their capital. Now, of course, banks, they're allowed to loan. I believe it's like they're only supposed to keep 10% in reserves, and they can loan out pretty much 10x that. So it's saying that just in real estate, they exceed 300%, which that's scary because a lot of this is commercial real estate. And again, I mentioned to you earlier that some of these loans are not producing how they were supposed to. Some of these assets, I'm sorry, were not producing how they were supposed to. So some of these investors and banks may be in trouble. And we can see in the chart, if you can see my screen, and I'll share this. If you're listening to this on a podcast, I'll share the links for all of these links, so you can look at them at your own time. So I'm looking at the chart, which says the state banks that are highly exposed, and you can see California is number 1, New Jersey at number 2, Rhode Island at number 3, which is shocking. Obviously, a lot of these are in the East Coast for the most part. You got New Jersey's, Rhode Island, Washington's in the West Coast, but you see what I mean. If we continue down, it says California could rank as the world's 5th largest economy, yet its banking sector is fragmented. So that's crazy. What it's saying is if California was its own country, like its own independent state, it will be the fifth largest economy. And that is scary because if 30% of the banks are this highly exposed, that can be a scary moment for the US economy, really. River City Bank is the bank that's exposed the most. And it says here, despite the bank's claims of cautious lending, its commercial real estate loans now stand at 660% of its capital, the highest among all banks in California. And we can see a chart here of all the banks in California. River City Bank is over at the right side with the highly exposed. So really 60% or more of the assets of this bank are in commercial real estate. Now, this doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad because commercial real estate is a broad field, meaning I can have some apartment buildings, which are residential, and those are operating fairly well because people still need housing. However, commercial real estate could also be offices. So, offices is a more hurtful product. So, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, we don't really know what the books really look for River City Bank. Um, so yeah, the takeaway: rising interest rates lead to increased vacancies and falling property values. So as an investor, keep an eye out because this could be an opportunity for us to jump in. Now, I did talk to an investor one time, maybe about 6 months ago. He said he has some office space, and what he was looking to do was turn those office spaces into residential property in turn speaking. So whether that's adding additional windows, additional sink bathrooms, whatever that is, he was trying to get creative because he had this commercial office space that he had to figure out. So on to our next story. Buyers of newly built homes can face a property tax surprise. Here's why. So let's talk about this. It says here almost 75% of recent home buyers had regrets about their purchases, according to a 2023 survey from Real Estate Witch. Property taxes were the most common gripe. I don't know how to say that word. Surprising 33% of new owners. So what this is saying is, uh, just to kind of summarize it, the article might explain it later, but I'm just going to explain it in my own words. And I was not sharing my screen with that. Sorry about that, people. There it is. But basically, what it's saying, when a new home is built, prior to the home being completed, it's obviously dirt over there. And what the city does, or the county, they assess the land prior to the home, and they get the value that the home is worth, or not the home, the land is worth in this case. And obviously, the property is assessed differently when it's a land versus when there's a building erected. So a lot of new home buyers for newly built homes, they see that their taxes are not that high yet, and the reason why is because banks estimate it wrong. Usually, I can't remember if it's the bank or it's your agent that's supposed to assist with that. I assume it's your bank, obviously, because they're the ones that prepare the escrow account. So they're supposed to assist you with that and trying to figure that out. So yeah, this is what's really the surprise for some homeowners, because the payment might increase by a lot if the estimate was done incorrectly. So we continue reading here. Property taxes can change dramatically after the purchase because initial rates are often based on estimates. Again, this is what I explained. The banks are going to estimate this amount here. So here's an interesting chart. New privately owned single family homes under new construction. So obviously we know, we're going to go here to 2010, 2008, 2010. The newly built home trend obviously reduced because of the '08 crash. But obviously, we're seeing that over the years after 2011, it's been increasing little by little. We had a little hiccup during COVID, but then it picked up pretty fast for 2021 when interest rates were super low. So now we're slowly getting back to normal. But however, like I mentioned in the previous story, the inventory is still low. So we're still waiting, for things to catch up there. So we continue reading, saying why property taxes can jump for new builds. When lenders qualify someone for a home purchase, they factor in the principal, the interest payment on the mortgage, homeowners insurance, and property taxes. But unlike previous owned homes, new builds lack a tax bill because there's no house to assess yet, expert says. So, but again, they're saying basically what I explained earlier. When the land is assessed, the county has to come back and assess the home. And really, I mean, not in every state, but usually they don't really come around. They just base it off, the square footage that the appraiser measured, or things of that sort. So people who buy today with the assumption that they qualify based on their current real estate sales. So this is the part that's scary, because I experienced this personally, not necessarily how these homeowners uh how it's happening to them, but the way I experienced is my lender did tell me, hey, the property taxes are low today and we are estimating this is how it's going to be, but we expect them to be this amount. So basically I was proactive, and I went ahead and saved the amount that I thought that my home escrow account was going to increase by. So that was not a surprise for me. So that was the good thing. But this is how you should do it. And the way for you to find that out, property taxes are public. You should find, and again, this is if you're a homeowner, or even if you're an investor, really, this is the way you can find that out. Property tax assessments are public information. So you can find out how your neighbor or somebody nearby, or commercial property nearby, was assessed. And again, just look up the parcel ID for that property, type it in, and you'll be able to find it in your local county tax assessor. So don't let this be a surprise for you. And for our third and final story, is a report from Realtor.com. Active inventory is up by 30.4% year over year. New listings are up by 30.1%. This is good news, because that means that hopefully prices can come down some. Um, and it continues saying here in the article, what this means on a weekly basis, Realtor.com reports the year over year change in active inventory and new listings. For March, which was last month, Realtor.com reported inventory was up 23.5% year over year, but it's still down 38% compared to March 2017 to 2019 levels. So again, we're not where we were prior to COVID, but we're getting there. This is good news again, because if supply increases, the idea is for demand to also to the demand to, let me see, I completely messed up my words there. The price is coming down, hopefully, or necessarily not coming down for all areas, maybe for some areas coming down, but stabilizing for other areas. Now, it says here on a weekly basis is going up 30.4%. So that's really good news. So for a 22nd straight week, active listings registered above prior year levels, which means that today's home shoppers are able to consider more options for assisting home sales. Now, this is also great news, because you guys remember back in 2021, 2022, when there were multiple bids on homes. One of the reasons for that is because there weren't that many to choose from. Like when a home went on the market, a lot of people were buying, buying, buying. And that's why you had multiple bids. And most of the time, they were above asking price, crazily above asking price. So it says here the number of homes on the market is still down 37.9% compared to 2017 and 2019. So this is a chart here of the weekly active listings. Let me move myself from the camera there, from the screen. You can see over here is when January of 2021, where interest rates started to come down. So a lot of people were refinanced during this time, and you see the trend started going back up. This is when people were putting their homes on sale because the values pretty much doubled in price. In 2022, it went down a bit, and that's when interest rates started uh, uh, going up. So less listings, because people didn't want to leave the 2-3%, 4% interest rate to jump into a 6 to 8% interest rate. So you can see here it peaked for active listings in 23. Again, this is when interest rates were super low. A lot of people were putting their homes to sale, and everything just went down mid 2023 when the Fed again increased interest rates. So it's a very interesting chart here. So to finalize our third and final story, new listings remain below typical pre-pandemic levels, although increasing. The year-over-year decline last week was related to the Easter holiday, and that was reversed this week. So it looks like things were declined last week, and it's because there weren't a lot of listings, as people were staying at home with their families, enjoying the beautiful Easter. So this is the top three stories. So to close today, again, for our first story, be in the lookout for commercial real estate, because this could be an opportunity, but at the same time, you got to be careful when you're purchasing these commercial loans, because again, they could be dangerous, because they are revolving credit every 5 years. You have a balloon for only 5 years. Again, For our second story, beware of the taxes if you are building a new home. Please make sure you got your estimates correct, because when that new tax bill hits, you want to make sure you have that correct. And the last story is that the inventory is increasing, so that could be an opportunity for home prices to balance a little bit. So thank you for joining in. Be sure to follow me at Ant1234 Moreno. And if you like what you see here, if you like getting a little bit of the real estate news stories in a couple minutes, please hit the thumb like, subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a good day and God bless.